Imagine, for a moment, that the person standing before you believes the world bends for them, that their needs rise above yours, that their reflection in the mirror shines brighter than any truth you could speak. You know, the type. They charm, they dazzle, they demand. And yet, behind that glitter lies fragility. Behind that grandeur lies hunger. Tonight, I will give you 5 subtle, but devastatingly effective ways to guide such a person. Not through confrontation, but through strategy. Listen closely, because in a world ruled by appearances, power belongs to those who understand the game and dare to play it. The first trick is simple, but it requires discipline. Give them the illusion of admiration while quietly directing the stage lights. A person who feeds on praise will rarely question the hand that provides it. When you offer admiration deliberately, you become the source of their validation. And when you are the source, you are the one who controls the flow. Don't resist their ego head. Don't shout against their thunder. Instead, make them feel the sun of your approval, precisely when it serves your plan. If they believe you see their brilliance, they will be far less likely to notice your quiet orchestration. It's not deceit, it's the art of influence. You must become a mirror they enjoy looking into, while you shape what that mirror reflects. The second trick is to control the battlefield of choice. Such individuals crave dominance, but their dominance depends on the arena you give them. When you limit the options, without appearing to limit them, you frame the entire interaction. Offer 2 doors, both of which lead where you want to go, and let them choose. They will feel powerful, decisive, superior. Yet every step will land where you have already drawn the map. Never enter a negotiation unprepared. Never ask, "What do you want?" Instead, say, "Would you prefer this or that?" and make both serve your ends. The more you appear to respect their autonomy, the more easily you guide their direction. The third trick is to master timing. People who thrive on admiration and control are easily unsettled by unpredictability. If you give them everything at once, they will gorge and grow restless. If you withhold everything, they will rebel and strike. But if you give and withdraw with rhythm, like the tide shaping the shore, they will adjust themselves to your pulse. Praise them when it costs you nothing. Deny them when it strengthens your position. Do not act from impulse. Act from calculation. Time your words, time your silences, time your availability. Make them anticipate you, and anticipation will bind them more strongly than affection. The fourth trick is to become indispensable not by pleading, but by value. A partner with such traits respects what serves their image or ambition. Make yourself the bridge to something they need. Social access, insight, calm, or competence. Be the architect of solutions they cannot build themselves. When you are the source of something vital, They may boast of independence, but they will feel your weight like the roots of a tree feel the earth. This does not mean servitude. It means positioning. Ask yourself, what do I provide that they cannot easily replace? Then amplify it. Make your presence synonymous with advantage. In their private thoughts, they must realize losing you costs them more than keeping you. The fifth and final trick is the subtlest, yet the most powerful. Control your own emotions, as if they were soldiers on the battlefield. Rage, despair, pleading, all of these feed the very dynamic you wish to master. If you erupt, you hand them a spectacle. If you collapse, you hand them proof of superiority. But if you remain calm, strategic, and unshaken, you become an enigma. An enigma cannot be dominated, only courted. When they cannot read your next move, they will tread carefully. And when they tread carefully, you gain the upper hand. Remember, you cannot steer another storm if you are drowning in your own waves. Let me pause here. You might be thinking, but isn't this manipulation? To which I ask, is it manipulation to defend your dignity, to protect your boundaries, to secure your peace? These tactics are not weapons of cruelty, they are shields of strategy. When faced with someone who thrives on control, direct confrontation is a duel you cannot win. But indirect influence, the art of guiding without appearing to guide, that is how you reclaim your power. You become the invisible architect of the interaction. You hold the reins without them seeing the bridle. Think of yourself as a ruler of your own small state. Your partner may be brilliant, magnetic, even dangerous in their charm. But like any power, their strength rests on perception. Shift perception, and you shift power. Praise at the right moment is a lever. Choice framed by you is a cage disguised as freedom. Timing is a tide. Value makes you irreplaceable. Emotional control makes you untouchable. These five, combined, are not just tricks. They are principles. Principles that allow you to coexist with someone who might otherwise consume your energy and bend your will. Now imagine yourself applying them. Imagine your voice calm, but firm as you offer admiration only when you choose. Imagine your questions always offering two paths, both leading to your goal. Imagine your presence. Like a drumbeat, they begin to follow without realizing. Imagine becoming the person they rely on, not because you beg, but because you provide. And imagine your emotions under your command, your face a mask of serenity they cannot penetrate. This is not fantasy. This is discipline. This is power. And power, properly wielded, transforms relationships. You will notice something else. When you adopt these methods, your own sense of self returns. You are no longer reacting to their moods, their demands, their drama. You are acting. You are shaping. You are free inside, even while navigating the outside. And when you are free inside, no one can truly control you, not even someone with a hunger for control. That freedom changes your posture, your tone, your energy. They will sense it. They may not understand it, but they will feel it. And feeling it, they will adjust. Because even the proudest peacock senses when the ground beneath it shifts. Do not misunderstand me. This is not about cruelty. This is about survival. This is about dignity. This is about refusing to let someone else's hunger devour your peace. It is about stepping onto the stage of your own life and saying, I will direct this act, even if I must do so from behind the curtain. The world does not reward those who shout the loudest. It rewards those who control the frame. And tonight, I have given you the frame. Look at these 5 tools again in your mind. The mirror of admiration, the framing of choices, the mastery of timing, the cultivation of indispensability, and the command of your emotions. Practice them quietly. Test them gently. Watch the effect. Over time, you will find the balance tilting. You will feel less like a pawn, more like a strategist. And when you stand in that power, you will not just control a partner with narcissistic traits. You will control the one thing that truly matters, yourself. Take this knowledge not as a weapon, but as a compass. Use it not to dominate, but to protect. Speak softly, act precisely, think ahead. In a world of masks, the person who understands the stage controls the play. And tonight, you are that person. Others call me Mother Nature. Picture the moment you first step into the orbit of someone who believes their light is brighter than the sun. Their charm can be intoxicating, their confidence overwhelming, and their need for admiration almost endless. Yet behind this facade lies their greatest vulnerability. They are fueled by the attention of others. This is where your power begins. By offering admiration strategically rather than instinctively, you shift yourself from being another voice in their audience to being the conductor of the applause. You are no longer a bystander. You become the one who controls the current they swim in. When you decide what you will praise, when you will praise, and how you will praise, you stop feeding them at random and start feeding them on command. That command does not come from louder words, but from deliberate timing. You are building an invisible structure around them, and they will not even notice the walls until they are leaning on them for support. Start by studying what makes them glow. Everyone with narcissistic tendencies has specific themes of pride. Maybe it's their intelligence, their looks, their achievements, their social influence. Do not scatter your compliments across everything like confetti. Select the aspects that align with your purpose. When you highlight the qualities that serve your mutual goals, you reward behavior you want to encourage. When you withhold praise on actions that damage you, you quietly punish them without confrontation. They will crave the warmth you provide and, without realizing it, will steer themselves toward it. This is the essence of strategic admiration. It is not random. It is targeted reinforcement. Like a sculptor with a chisel, each stroke shapes the figure over time. To apply this effectively, you must also master your delivery. Empty flattery will not work on someone who already expects it. They have heard 1,000 shallow compliments before. Your praise must feel sincere, specific, and measured. Instead of gushing, speak with quiet certainty. A short, well-placed line can hold more weight than a paragraph of adoration. Look them in the eye, use their own language, and give the impression that you see something rare in them that others overlook. They will lean toward you for more, because you offer not just admiration, but the sense of being truly understood. And, in the mind of such a person, being understood is the highest currency. Another dimension of this strategy is scarcity. Constant praise loses its power. It becomes background noise. But if your approval is intermittent, appearing when least expected, it becomes a prize. They begin to anticipate it, to wonder when it will come next. That anticipation creates tension, and tension creates focus. They start to adjust their behavior, not because you demanded it, but because they crave the reward you control. In this way, you create a rhythm, a pattern they cannot name, but can feel. One moment you acknowledge their brilliance, the next you are silent. The silence speaks louder than any rebuke, and the next compliment feels like sunlight after a storm. You have turned admiration into leverage. Be careful, though, to mask the mechanics of what you are doing. If they sense manipulation, they will resist. Your demeanor must remain calm, natural, even generous. You are not playing a game of overt dominance, but one of subtle influence. To them, it should feel as if you are simply someone who gets them, someone who sees their best self and mirrors it back. Behind that mirror, however, you are choosing what reflection to show. That is your stagecraft. You are crafting the story they believe about themselves, and because they are invested in that story, they will follow your cues. There is also power in redirecting admiration from the person to the partnership. Instead of only praising their individual traits, begin weaving your compliments into how well you work together, how their strengths shine when aligned with your shared goals. This subtly shifts the spotlight from me to us. They still feel recognized, but they begin to associate your approval with collaboration rather than isolation. Over time, they will connect the satisfaction of being admired with the act of cooperating with you. This is not confrontation. It is conditioning. You are anchoring their pride to behaviors that strengthen your position. As you do this, remain aware of your own motives. Strategic admiration is not about losing yourself in someone else's ego. It is about regaining control in an environment where direct opposition often fails. By becoming the source of validation, You create a channel through which influence can flow back to you. Think of it as a river. Their ego is the current. Your praise is the dam, and you decide when to open or close the gates. They may think they are the river, but you are controlling the flow. This approach also protects your emotional energy. When you praise them randomly out of fear or habit, you drain yourself. When you praise them strategically, you remain in command of your own voice. You decide when to speak, when to stay silent, when to affirm, and when to withdraw. That discipline builds your inner strength. It prevents the dynamic from swallowing you whole. It also changes how they perceive you. Instead of being one more admirer, you become a figure of mystery, someone whose approval is valued, but not guaranteed. That sense of mystery is power, because power often lies in what cannot be easily predicted or obtained. You may notice that as you implement this, the balance begins to shift. They might lean closer to you, seeking your feedback more often. They may adjust their behavior around you without even realizing why. They may even start to respect you, not because you demanded it, but because you became the rare person whose admiration they cannot take for granted. In a world of constant applause, scarcity creates value. You become valuable because you are not like the rest. This is the quiet alchemy of influence, turning something as simple as praise into a tool of guidance. Do not underestimate how much patience this requires. Strategic admiration is not a weapon you wield once. It is a long game. You are reshaping a dynamic, and reshaping takes time. It requires observation, restraint, and consistency. But as you practice it, you will develop an instinct for timing, a sense for when to lift someone up and when to stay silent. You will notice how their moods shift with your cues. You will begin to see the strings of the puppet show, and you will hold them lightly, without letting them tangle around your own fingers. Ultimately, offering admiration strategically is an act of reclaiming power over yourself. You cannot change another person's nature, but you can change how you interact with it. By becoming the source of their validation on your terms, you create a space where you are no longer merely reacting. You are directing. You are not feeding their ego blindly. You are feeding it like a trainer feeds a lion, with purpose, with boundaries, with awareness. And in that awareness, you find freedom, because the same skills that allow you to guide them also strengthen your own discipline and clarity. You become not just the giver of admiration, but the architect of influence. Imagine standing across from someone who thrives on feeling powerful. Someone who wants to lead every conversation, make every decision, and dictate the rhythm of your shared life. When you meet a person with narcissistic tendencies, head on and try to wrestle control away, you usually find yourself in a draining struggle. They are accustomed to winning visible battles. The key is not to strip them of their sense of control, but to shape the arena in which their control operates. This is why framing every choice is such a potent strategy. It lets them feel the thrill of autonomy while you quietly direct the path. In effect, you do not try to change the player, you change the game board. Start with a shift in how you present options. Most people, when negotiating or compromising, lay out all the possibilities on the table, or ask openly what the other person wants. But someone who craves dominance will take that invitation as an opportunity to push for the outcome that benefits them most. By contrast, if you have already preselected 2 or 3 outcomes that all serve your interests, and you frame your question so they must choose among those, you transform the dynamic. They experience the satisfaction of making a decision. You experience the security of knowing every door they pick leads to a room you have already prepared. This is not deception. It is design. It is creating an environment where you are safe from being cornered. This approach demands foresight. Before any conversation, think about what you want, what you can compromise, and what you cannot. Then build your choices around that map. For example, instead of asking, "Where do you want to go?" you might say, "Would you prefer this restaurant or that one?" Both restaurants have been chosen because they suit your needs. Instead of asking, "How should we handle this?" you say, "Do you think this way or that way is better?" Both ways are paths you can accept. When this becomes a habit, you no longer walk into their arena unarmed. You bring your own arena with you. It also requires a calm, confident delivery. If your tone is anxious or defensive, they will sense it and push against the frame. Present your options as though you are already certain either is a good outcome. Make it seem natural, even generous, that you have thought ahead and simplified the decision. The person who thrives on control wants to feel competent and decisive. By framing the choices, you offer them a stage on which they can display those traits without threatening you. They walk away feeling powerful. You walk away with the result you wanted. Scarcity is another layer of this technique. Do not flood them with endless options. Too many choices create chaos, and chaos is where they regain the upper hand. 2 or 3 clear options are enough. Each option should be meaningful, not trivial. If they sense the choices are trivial, they may try to break out of the frame. Give them options that all matter, but still serve your plan. Think of it as designing a garden with winding paths. They may pick left or right, but every path leads to the same fountain at the center. It is also wise to anchor your options in their values. A person with narcissistic traits is often motivated by appearance, status, or efficiency. When you frame choices in a way that appeals to those motives, they are more likely to pick willingly. For example, If you want them to attend a family event with you, present two options that highlight how each will make them look supportive or important. You are not forcing them. You are aligning your goal with their self-interest. This makes the frame stronger because it does not feel like a cage. It feels like an opportunity. Over time, this method shapes the pattern of your interactions. They become accustomed to you presenting options and themselves making the final decision. They still feel like the leader, but you have defined the boundaries. Like a river flowing between banks, their sense of power stays within limits you have quietly built. This protects you from extremes, reduces conflict, and gives you room to maneuver. It also shifts their perception of you. Instead of being someone they can simply overwhelm, you become someone who organizes things, someone who thinks ahead. They begin to rely on you to structure choices, which strengthens your position even more. The discipline here is subtlety. If you ever reveal openly that you are controlling the frame, they may rebel. Your demeanor should always communicate respect, even admiration, for their decision-making. Praise their choices when you can. Reinforce the idea that they are decisive and wise. Meanwhile, inside yourself, you know that the real wisdom was in the options you presented. This internal separation, showing one thing while holding another, is what protects your strategy from discovery. You may also notice a change inside yourself. Framing choices forces you to become clear about your own needs and boundaries. You cannot offer good options if you do not know where you stand. You will begin to plan ahead, anticipate reactions, and design conversations. This clarity strengthens your confidence. When you walk into discussions, knowing you have already built a safety net, you no longer feel anxious or reactive. You speak with more calm authority. That calmness itself becomes another form of influence. In relationships with people who demand control, direct confrontation often leads to escalation. They may argue, sulk, or retaliate when they feel cornered. But when you frame the choice and let them pick, you sidestep their defenses. They feel respected because they are still choosing. Yet, because you shaped the menu, you are safe from being trapped. It is a way of moving the battleground from their turf to neutral ground. Ground you prepared. This method also helps reduce resentment. Instead of feeling like you have to give in all the time, you design outcomes you can live with. Instead of feeling like they always win, you quietly guide the game so there is no true loss for you. Over time, this can even soften the dynamic. They may feel less need to dominate because they are still getting their hit of control. You may feel less drained because you are not constantly fighting or giving up. It becomes less a war and more a dance, where you are the one choosing the music. Consider, too, how you can use this technique outside of big decisions. even in small daily interactions. What to watch, where to go, how to handle chores. You can frame choices. It trains both of you into a new rhythm. They practice making decisions within your frames. You practice building frames that protect your interests. This rhythm builds a culture in your relationship, a culture in which you are no longer at the mercy of their whims, but have quietly built a system of shared decision, making that leans in your favor. Patience is essential. You cannot transform a dynamic overnight. People with narcissistic tendencies are skilled at sensing threats to their control. Move gradually. Keep your frames consistent. Reinforce their sense of autonomy even as you shape it. Let them believe the power is theirs while you quietly hold the steering wheel. In time, you will see that you are no longer being dragged by the current. You are guiding the boat down a channel. You chose long before you set sail. By mastering the art of framing choices, you replace direct struggle with strategic influence. You do not have to fight for every inch. You build the road, and they walk it believing they are leading. You are not surrendering control. You are redefining it. And in that redefinition lies your protection, your dignity, and your power. Imagine you are dealing with someone who is always hungry for attention, admiration, and control. Their moods rise and fall like a tide. One moment they are glowing, the next they are distant or critical. If you react impulsively to every shift, you become like a puppet on their strings. But if you learn to master timing, you become the one who sets the rhythm they unconsciously follow. Timing is not just about when you speak or act. It is about creating a deliberate pattern of giving and withdrawing, appearing and disappearing, praising and remaining silent. Others so that your influence moves through anticipation rather than force. When a person who craves control cannot predict you, they cannot easily dominate you. Instead, they adjust themselves to your tempo. The first step in mastering timing is awareness. You must observe their cycles, their highs, their lows. The moments when they feel triumphant, and the moments when they are vulnerable. People with narcissistic tendencies often reveal themselves through patterns. They may expect praise after a public success, attention when they are bored, or support when they feel slighted. By watching closely, you begin to see not just isolated behaviors, but rhythms. Once you understand these rhythms, you can decide when to step forward and when to step back. You are no longer a passive participant. You are a strategist holding the metronome. The next step is controlling your responses. When they demand immediate attention or validation, resist the instinct to react instantly. Instant responses train them to expect your energy on command. Delayed responses, given calmly and deliberately, send a different message. You are present, but on your own terms. At first they may push harder, but over time they adjust. they begin to wait for you. This waiting is powerful because anticipation is a form of focus. They begin to invest mental energy in wondering when you will respond. That mental energy binds them closer to you than any forced conversation ever could. Similarly, do not give praise on a predictable schedule. If every action of theirs is met with automatic approval, your praise becomes worthless, and you become another background voice. Instead, make your approval feel like a rare currency. Offer it when it costs you little, but strengthens your position. Hold it back when their behavior undermines you. This intermittent reinforcement creates a kind of magnetism. They never know exactly when the warmth will come, so they continue seeking it. In that seeking, they orient themselves around you. Mastering timing also means using silence as a tool. Silence can be more powerful than words, especially with someone who feeds on reactions. When they provoke you, withhold your immediate reaction. Let the silence sit. It will feel heavy to them because they expect a response. In that silence, you are showing that you are not easily moved, that your attention is not a toy. Later, when you choose to speak, your words will carry more weight because they were not given cheaply. Silence creates space, and space creates leverage. Another layer of timing is your physical presence. Do not always be available. Availability without boundaries signals to someone with narcissistic traits that you are a resource they can draw from at will. By withdrawing at intervals, not as punishment, but as self-discipline, you teach them that your presence is valuable. When you return, you do so with calmness, not resentment. This rhythm of presence and absence makes them notice the difference. They start to feel that your time is a privilege, not a given. This shift is subtle but powerful. It changes the power dynamic without a single confrontation. This practice also strengthens you internally. When you no longer rush to meet every demand, you reclaim your time and energy. You begin to live on your own clock rather than theirs. This makes you calmer, more deliberate, more centered. People with narcissistic tendencies often feed on chaos. They draw energy from pulling others into their storms. When you move at your own pace, you deny them that fuel. You become like a rock in the river. The water flows around you, but you remain unmoved. That steadiness is influence in its purest form. Think of timing as a dance. In a dance, one person leads and the other follows. But both are moving to the same music. If you allow them to set the beat, you are always reacting. But if you quietly change the tempo, pausing here, stepping back there, they must adjust to you. They may not even realize it, but their steps begin to mirror yours. This is how anticipation works. They start to plan around you, to wonder about you, to wait for you. They begin to feel that your approval, your attention, your presence are events rather than constants. Events carry more weight, Another benefit of mastering timing is that it keeps you from escalating conflict. When someone with narcissistic traits becomes angry or critical, the worst thing you can do is react in the heat of the moment. Wait. Breathe. Respond later, when the heat has passed and you can speak from clarity. This delay is not weakness, it is power. It prevents you from saying things you regret and prevents them from feeding on your emotional reaction. In time, they will learn that provocation does not move you. This makes their provocations less frequent and less effective. As you refine this skill, you may notice that your partner begins to sync with your rhythm without realizing it. They may start waiting for your cues before speaking or acting. They may seek your attention at times you have conditioned them to expect it. This is not magic, it is psychology. Humans, even the most self-focused, respond to patterns of reward and withdrawal. When you control the pattern, you control the flow of attention. You are not dominating them by force. You are guiding them by timing. The key to making this sustainable is consistency without rigidity. You are not creating a mechanical schedule. You are creating a living rhythm. Sometimes you give quickly, sometimes slowly. Sometimes you are present, sometimes you withdraw. The unpredictability within the rhythm keeps their attention sharp. But beneath that unpredictability lies your steady intention to protect your energy, to guide the interaction, to create anticipation rather than submission. That intention keeps you from slipping into mere gamesmanship. It keeps you grounded in purpose. Over time, you will find that mastering timing does more than influence them. It transforms you. You become less reactive, more observant, more strategic. You begin to sense the right moment to speak, the right moment to be silent, the right moment to step forward, the right moment to step back. You develop patience, and patience is a kind of quiet strength. In relationships where direct power struggles fail, quiet strength wins. When you give attention, do it fully and generously so it feels real. When you withhold it, do it calmly and without cruelty so it feels natural. This is how you build a rhythm. They trust even as they follow it. They never feel overtly controlled, yet they are moving to your tempo. That is the essence of timing, not rigid control, but subtle leadership. Through timing, you replace chaos with pattern, reaction with anticipation, and weakness with influence. You become the person who decides not only what to give, but when to give it. And because in human psychology timing magnifies everything, praise, presence, silence, your influence expands without you raising your voice. Picture the subtle shift that occurs the moment someone realizes they need you. A person with narcissistic traits may project independence, superiority, and invulnerability, but their image is often a farce, aid built on the admiration, labor, and resources of others. Beneath their loud self-assurance lies a constant search for supply approval access, contacts, ideas, stability, execution. They may boast that they stand alone, but their ego depends on what others provide. This is the opening through which you build your leverage. Instead of trying to win arguments or demand respect, you quietly position yourself as the provider of something they cannot easily replace. When you are the bridge between them and something they want, you transform yourself from a disposable participant into an indispensable ally. And when you are indispensable, you do not have to shout. Your presence speaks for you. Begin by identifying what they truly value. It might not be what they say aloud. Some value social status. Some value practical support. Some value calmness. Some value expertise. Some value emotional steadiness. Some value money or introductions. Watch their patterns. When do they praise someone? When do they become jealous? What do they reach for in times of stress? This observation reveals the currency that matters most to them. Once you know the currency, you can decide how to offer it on your terms. Instead of scattering your energy across everything they demand, you focus on becoming excellent in one or two areas they cannot easily replicate. Scarcity creates power. If they can get something from anyone, it carries little weight. If they can only get it from you, your value rises. This is not servitude, it is strategy. The goal is not to become their servant, but to become their architect, the person who designs, solves, or stabilizes in a way they cannot. For example, you may be the one who keeps the household functioning smoothly, the one who has the professional contacts they crave, the one who knows how to calm storms, the one who turns vague ideas into concrete plans. Do it quietly and competently. Do it so well that they begin to associate progress, success, or relief with your presence. When they think of a goal, your face should appear in the mental picture of how to reach it. Over time, this creates a psychological tether. Even if they boast about their independence, a part of them knows. Losing you would cost them more than keeping you. To maintain this position, you must set boundaries. Being indispensable does not mean being endlessly available. If you give without limits, they will take without gratitude. If you make yourself indispensable and also scarce, you create respect. Offer your unique value generously, but not constantly. Step back enough for them to feel the difference when you are gone. This contrast teaches them that what you provide is not automatic. It also protects your energy. When you return by choice, not obligation. In this way, you transform what might have been exploitation into a mutually beneficial exchange, at least on the surface. They feel empowered, but you hold the real leverage. Another element of indispensability is framing your contribution as collaborative rather than subordinate. You are not simply doing things for them. You are helping them achieve something larger. Use language that signals partnership. Here's how we can reach this. This will strengthen our position. I've prepared something that will make this easier for us. This subtle shift moves the dynamic from "and you give" to "we achieve because of what I bring." Even someone with narcissistic tendencies, who likes to claim all the credit, will still absorb the idea that your presence equals progress. In their mind, you become part of the machinery of their success. Be mindful also of your personal growth. The more skilled, connected, knowledgeable, and composed you become, the harder you are to replace. Invest in your own development, not only for your well-being, but as a strategic move. Expand your network, your expertise, your self-control. The stronger your position outside the relationship, the stronger your position inside it. This prevents you from slipping into genuine dependency, while you cultivate perceived indispensability. You are creating a one-way dependency, their dependency on you, while preserving your independence from them. That asymmetry is your shield. Patience is crucial. Indispensability is not declared, it is built. It is built through consistent performance, reliability, and restraint. If you rush or boast about it, they may sense the strategy and resist. Let it emerge naturally. Let them be the one who says, "I don't know what I'd do without you." When you hear that, you will know the dynamic has shifted. They will still posture, still demand, still display ego, but under the surface, they will calculate the cost of alienating you. That calculation influences their behavior more than any direct confrontation ever could. Timing also matters. Offer your unique value at moments when it makes the greatest impression. Moments of crisis, ambition, or public display. People remember who steadied them when they were about to fall, who solved the problem no one else could, who elevated them in front of others. A well-timed act of competence or support can lodge you in their mind as essential. Once that association forms, each future interaction reinforces it. They begin to see you not as one option among many, but as the default, the constant, the anchor. Maintaining this position requires composure. If you appear desperate for their approval, the power reverses. Indispensability only works when it is paired with emotional self-control. You must project that you choose to give your unique value, not that you need them to notice it. They must feel that you are with them because you want to be, not because you cannot survive without them. This subtle impression keeps them slightly off balance, slightly aware that you have other options even as they lean on you. That awareness curbs their worst impulses and breeds a form of respect, even if grudging. Over time, your role as the indispensable one reshapes the entire dynamic. Instead of being reactive to their moods, you become the stable center they orbit. Instead of fighting for space, you define the terrain. Instead of feeling drained, you operate from a position of quiet influence. They still believe they are in charge, but unconsciously they begin to protect their access to you. This protection may show up as small concessions, as seeking your opinion, as hesitating before disrespecting you. They are not suddenly transformed. They are responding to a shift in incentives. Losing you would mean losing something they value. This strategy also strengthens your inner life. By focusing on what you bring rather than on their constant demands, you reclaim your sense of agency. You are not merely surviving, you are shaping. You are cultivating skills, networks, and composure that will serve you whether the relationship lasts or ends. This makes your power real rather than dependent on their recognition. The more real your power, the less you need to display it. You can move with quiet confidence because you know your value is not an illusion. They may think they are the center, but you have become the foundation. Indispensability is not about flattery, manipulation, or endless sacrifice. It is about deliberate positioning. It is the art of aligning what you naturally do well with what they most need, then delivering it in a way that preserves your autonomy. When done correctly, it turns a dynamic that might otherwise crush you into one where you hold hidden leverage. They still get to feel important, but you hold the key resource. And because humans, even the most self-absorbed, are motivated by self-interest, that resource keeps them tethered. It keeps the relationship from spinning entirely on their terms. It gives you space to breathe, to plan, to live on your own terms while appearing to support theirs. This is how you make yourself indispensable without losing yourself. When you are in the orbit of someone who feeds on admiration and control, your emotions are the first battleground. Their mood swings, provocations, and charm are designed, whether consciously or unconsciously, to pull you out of your center. If they can make you plead, explode, or collapse, they have proof of their power over you. That is why the greatest tool you can develop is mastery over your own emotions. It is not coldness, it is command. When you learn to feel without letting those feelings steer your behavior, you become unreadable, unshakable, and therefore untouchable. The very patterns they rely on to dominate others, provocation, guilt, flattery, urgency, begin to fail when they hit the wall of your composure. What once fed them becomes neutral. What once drained you becomes fuel for your discipline. The first step in mastering your emotions is self-awareness. You must be able to name what you are feeling in the moment without acting on it. Anger, fear, longing, resentment. All of these can surge up quickly when you're dealing with someone who pushes your buttons. Instead of reacting, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what am I feeling and why? This simple act of observing your emotion, rather than being swept away by it, creates a gap. In that gap lies your freedom to choose your response. That gap is invisible to them, but it is everything to you. It turns you from a puppet into a player. Once you have the gap, you begin to control timing. You do not speak when you are triggered. You speak when you are ready. You do not give praise out of habit. You give it when it serves your aim. You do not rush to defend yourself. You wait until you can do so calmly and clearly. Every time you hold back an impulsive reaction, you weaken their grip on you. Every time you respond from composure, you send a subtle signal. I am not moved by your storms. Over time, they sense this even if they cannot name it. They will test you at first, escalating provocations to break your calm. But if you hold steady, the testing loses its reward. Like a gambler at a machine that no longer pays out, they pull the lever less often. Mastering your emotions also involves separating what they do from who you are. People with narcissistic tendencies will project their insecurities onto you, accuse you of things you did not do, or try to make you feel small to feel big themselves. If you absorb every accusation as truth, you will always be on the defensive. But if you develop an internal compass, values, self-respect, reality checks, you can hear their words without swallowing them. You can listen, evaluate, and discard. Their barbs bounce off because you know who you are. This inner certainty makes you unreadable. They cannot manipulate guilt that doesn't stick, cannot provoke rage that doesn't ignite, cannot exploit a wound that is already healed. Physical composure supports emotional composure. Your tone, posture, facial expressions, and breathing are signals. If you keep your voice even, your shoulders relaxed, your gaze steady, you project calm, even if you feel stirred inside. This calm becomes contagious to you as well. The act of holding your body steady feeds back to your mind and steadies it. It also unsettles someone who expects to see you react. A narcissistic partner often escalates in search of drama. When there is no drama, their tactics lose power. You do not need to announce your control. Your stillness announces it for you. Another dimension of emotional mastery is detachment from outcome. This does not mean apathy. It means you do what is right for you, without clinging to their immediate reaction. If you set a boundary, you do not set it hoping for praise. You set it because it is necessary. If you give a compliment, you do not give it hoping to be repaid. You give it because it serves your strategy. When you stop hinging your emotional state on their response, you stop being predictable. They cannot reward or punish you into compliance, because your inner world no longer swings on their approval. This unpredictability creates a subtle shift of power. They begin to tread carefully, unsure what will move you, because you are no longer moved by the old levers. Practicing this discipline also helps you recover faster when you do slip. Nobody is perfectly calm all the time. The difference is that you notice your slip, you stop it sooner, and you reset without shame. You treat each interaction as training. Each time you hold your calm under pressure, you strengthen the muscle. Each time you regain your calm after losing it, you strengthen it too. Over weeks and months, this builds a kind of quiet resilience. You no longer dread their outbursts or manipulation because you know you can stay steady or return to steady quickly. This confidence radiates from you and changes the entire dynamic. Mastering your emotions does not mean suppressing them. Suppression is a ticking bomb. Mastery is feeling fully but expressing selectively. You still feel joy, anger, sadness, love. You simply decide when and how to show it. Sometimes you will choose to show warmth, sometimes neutrality, sometimes firm boundaries. The choice is yours. That choice is freedom, and freedom is power. When you stop being a slave to your own impulses, no one else can enslave you either. This composure also allows you to use positive emotions strategically. Because you are not reacting automatically, your praise, your smiles, your affection all become more meaningful. They are no longer the crumbs you scatter, but the rewards you place deliberately. This makes them more potent. The person you are dealing with begins to notice. Your approval is not guaranteed, but when it comes, it feels real. This intermittent reinforcement draws them closer to you. Even as your calm distance protects you, you are leading not by force, but by the gravity of your self-control. You will find that emotional mastery transforms not only your interactions with a narcissistic partner, but also your entire sense of self. You begin to feel larger inside. Their moods seem smaller. Their tricks seem transparent. Your days have more space in them because you are not constantly thinking about how they will react. You can plan, create, rest. You start to build your life around your own values rather than their demands. This inner stability becomes visible. They may not compliment it, but they feel it. Even people with little empathy adjust their behavior when their usual tactics no longer work. Finally, this mastery gives you choices. You can stay or leave, negotiate or disengage, confront or redirect. You are no longer trapped in reflex. You have room to maneuver. You can use strategy rather than desperation. This is what it means to be unreadable, unshakable, and untouchable. Not that you never feel, but that you feel and still choose. In relationships where power games are constant, that ability is more effective than any argument. It is the quiet strength that reshapes the field without a visible fight. It is the inner victory that precedes every outer one.